The 20th Sunday after Pentecost, October 18th in the year of our Lord 2020. Hear now the reading from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 22, verses 15 through 22. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap him in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth. And show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius, and then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. The escape artist. So the Pharisees sent their disciples, and the Herodians conspired with them to trip Jesus up with a question to which they believed there could be no good answer. The Pharisees hated the Roman occupation of Judea. They deplored its wretched coercion of the pious and observant Jew into idolatry. Their commitment to ethno-nationalism was sorely offended, so they shared with the unlettered and the workaday descendants of David a grievous hurt. The world was out of joint because the authority of the temple had been dislodged from the center of public life, the life both sacred and profane. Here was this new coin that had been introduced as the common currency through which business was now to be conducted and transacted. Its rate of exchange was set from Rome and not Jerusalem. It bore the stamp of a man's face in profile, and its inscription made witness to that man's divine ancestry as a Caesar. That coin represented an affront to the one true God of Israel. I suppose that the Pharisees had every right to nurse their anguish in the face of so much earthly power. The Herodians, for their part, had made their peace with their Roman masters. They ingratiated themselves with the emperor and became loyal deputies for the sake of their own advantage, exercising authority delegated to them from Rome. The common coin of the realm did not offend them if it continued to supply them wealth, privilege, and station. The face of the emperor in their purse was purpose sufficient to their needs. National independence, after all, was a mirage only dreamers could embrace, but the practical man was clever enough to massage office from oily obsequiousness. These two camps had nothing in common save one man, a man apart from state government and a man outside the practice of institutional religion. He was a problem of growing magnitude for the champions of profane affairs on the one hand, and a serious challenge to the standard set by the guardians of holy practices on the other. Jesus, only days before, had entered Jerusalem with spontaneous and infectious pomp upon the back of a humble ass. His parade of palm branches mocked the procession of martial force displayed in heavily armed Roman legions and head-wreathed tribunes. It also threw the vanity of temple elders into bold relief. Jesus' very presence and his every word made them appear increasingly irrelevant. Jesus was incontestably charismatic and attracted larger and larger crowds of admirers from among the poor, the hopeless, the palsied, the blind, the deaf, the leprous, the women, and the children too. The powerless found in Jesus a source of life and energy, a rebirth of joy, that life matters after all, and in spite of poverty, illness, or invisibility. The Herodians sensed that Jesus might inflame the heat for insurrection, and the Pharisees felt their financial power slipping, especially after Jesus stunt with their mall for pigeons and turtle doves. As much as the Herodians and the Pharisees may have disliked each other, they saw in Jesus a dangerous and formidable critique of their whole way of life. Hissing their mutual contempt and scorn for Jesus, they colluded in their slithering design to ensnare him over the symbolic union of holy and sacred in the Roman coin. Their detestable unctuousness is transparent as they flatter Jesus for his truthfulness and his impartiality. Their syrupy insincerity invokes his authentic and unvarnished sincerity to draw him out and into the trap they had prepared. See here now, teacher. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? Jesus' response exposes them instantly. He calls out their hypocrisy, their false and masked faces. He uncovers their true intent to their very faces, the faces they seek to conceal with fawning agreeableness. I want to ask, just how foolish do they have to be to think that Jesus now will play the fool for them? There are several things to notice in Jesus' slipping of the knot his adversaries wish to use to tie him down. First, Jesus asks for the coin used to pay the tax, for he has none of his own. One may even wonder if Jesus has ever paid any taxes at all. What money of any kind did Jesus possess? And while these details may prove intriguing, the more salient observation is that Jesus reveals just how engaged and compromised his accusers already are by the very system through which they hope to rid themselves of Jesus. They have the coin. That coin represents man's power in the sum of our desire, which the coin may purchase. Jesus holds it in his hand and asks a question of his own. Whose head is this, and whose title? His question elicits the response that traps the trappers. When they answer that the head is the emperor's without providing the title, it is painfully clear just how they see the world. For them, and for most of us, for most of the time, emperor or no emperor, the world is a man-made reality stamped with our own image of who we believe ourselves to be. That image is always has been, self-inflated, and it is a distortion of the cosmic truth of which we are but a part. And at that, a very small part indeed. But Jesus tells his interrogators to give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, as though it might even be conceivable that Caesar could own the stars, the sun, and the moon, as if Caesar could command the ways of birth and death and the secret travels of the soul along the invisible path from darkness unto light, from enigma to revelation. Give him what belongs to him, says Jesus. And in that instant, one knows that the emperor, like all men, will one day die. And the emperor cannot extend his empire beyond the geography of his finite mortal body. The mountains, he claims, will survive him and mock his pretense to own them. The rains and snows will come and go without so much as his leave to do so. The shower and the fall of rain and snow, they will come and go in their own season from the concealed chambers of the earth and the sky. The moon will obey the law of its own phases, waxing and waning as it has for hundreds of thousands of years before ever the emperor was born. And it will continue to do so eons after the emperor's name has been forgotten and his image has been effaced from the coin, rubbed smooth between countless fingers. Jesus intimates that day shall surely come, and when it does, the coin shall cease to be a coin at all, for its graven image will no longer betoken any value anyone might respect. But this is but half the answer Jesus gives. He urges them to give unto God the things that are God's. Even now, this answer makes my head spin just to consider what belongs to God. I have a practice each night to stare into the starlit sky when the clouds have melted away in mist. I watch for Venus to appear, and for Sirius too, that brightest star by far. I look to the east of my home and I detect the bright red orange of Mars appearing. Just now the Big Dipper has dropped off toward the western horizon, but it has done so year after year since first I began my nighttime ritual of admiring what I can never own. Here and there the stars begin their orchestrated dance to a music inaudible, but a music I infer from the movement of light across the deep, unfathomable canvas of night. In the morning, after I have been stirred from sleep, I rush to observe the last glimmer of the moon's silken light in the pale blue sky. There she bids adieu before the sun's flamboyant and extravagant shine takes the day in hand to dispel the shadows gray. I greet the new day with a joy I cannot name. I draw my first deep breath of dew-scented air, of wet grass and water-painted leaf. I feel the cooling breeze upon my neck in the way my hair clings to my ear, the way the thrill of being alive makes me want to shout my thrust of yes into the early hours of dawn. Before long, Darla roams the yard, squats to relieve herself, and continues her search of scent in the wind. Her right front paw curled up beneath her chest, her ears pinned back before she barks her praise for what she feels but cannot see. I pat her head and she licks my hand, and she and I together agree that it is good. And there the secret is revealed once more. I own nothing because it has always already been given to me. Here there is no tax, no bartering or exchange in the artifice of paper or coin. There is only all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be. My tribute is my glad and gleaming yes, my admiration and my joy, my song and my dance, my worship and my adoration, my holy yes, that all belongs to God, because God has impressed a divine glow on all matter. A divine signature is pinned into energy, and God's own image is stamped in the face, the smile, the laughter, in the yearning after grace of all flesh and spirit. In his drop the mic moment, Jesus said so much more than any of his predators could have heard that day. So fixed were they upon catching Jesus in their gnarled nets. They were confident they had cornered him with taxes, money, and empire. They were playing for the cheap stakes with a shallow either or, but Jesus played for the whole of being with a transcendent both and. The exchange of powers on the earth is the stuff of money in the economy of want and scarcity. The exchange of grace reveals that nothing belongs to Caesar and nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to God, even our very selves. And by God's grace, we have received it all through love to give it back in love, to receive it all again in love, to give it back again in love. And so you see the round. To receive and to give without end, because the exchange of grace is the stuff of love in the economy of fullness and abundance. I hear a song. The echo of the song we said last week. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. But perhaps Jesus had a psalm other than the 23rd in mind. When they departed from him, I like to think that Jesus silently sounded these words for prayer. Let the heavens be glad, and let the earth rejoice. Let the sea roar, and all that fills it. Let the field exult, and everything in it. Then shall all the trees of the forest sing for joy before the Lord. Matthew's gospel says that those who sought to trouble Jesus, to make him stumble and fall, were amazed by what he had said. But they left him and went away. But we have heard what Jesus said as well, you and I. And we too, are we not amazed? But we draw near, never to leave him, never to leave him alone. Oh, let the church say, amen.